Hey everyone, I'm here in Marietta, Georgia at the Marietta City Cemetery. And we're here to look at the grave of yet another victim, very young victim of an infamous murder. And that's the grave of Mary Phagan. Mary Phagan was a employee at the National Pencil Factory in Atlanta. Her boss was Leo Frank. She was found murdered on April 27th, 1913, the day after this big event known as the Confederate Memorial Day Parade that happens in a select few southern states. This was happening on the evening of April 26, 1913. And Mary was found in the basement by the night watchman, former slave Newt Lee. Newt Lee saw the body, and he feared that him discovering the body would lead to his conviction, almost like like he would be blamed for the murder because he found the body. Now, Newt Lee was a suspect in the whole trial of trying to find the murderer of Mary Phagan. But Newt was actually not one of the main suspects in the end. Most people that do know about the case, Leo Frank was ultimately convicted of Mary Phagan's murder. Leo Frank was the manager of the pencil factory. He was a Jewish business owner. Now, this happened in 1913. There was a little bit of anti-Semitism going on, but if you look at the logistics of everything, that was not the main reason for his conviction. It was a lot of squirrely evidence that made it seem like he committed the murder, and there was a lot of evidence that made it seem like he did not commit the murder. Now, Leo Frank was one of the main suspects. There was one other suspect. His name was Jim Conley. He was the janitor of the pencil factory. Jim Conley, being a black man, there was a lot of evidence that made it seem like he committed the murder. There were 2 letters written that made it seem like Mary Phagan had written these letters, but those 2 letters were found out to be forged by Jim Conley. Some people will say that Jim Conley assisted Leo Frank in the murder. Others will say that it was just Leo Frank, and then you have other people saying that it was Jim Conley. Strongest piece of evidence that we see is Jim Conley being seen washing blood off of his shirt by another co-worker. Jim Conley was also seen, now this was presented much later in the case after Leo Frank had been hung, but someone had claimed to seen Jim Conley carrying Mary Phagan's body. That was an office boy to Leo Frank. But like I said, there's a lot of information and potential evidence that pointed to both of these guys. So you could easily say that Leo Frank did it with substantial evidence. You could also say that Jim Conley did it with substantial evidence. But there's only 2 people that really know what happened. And during the case, you would know that that would be Jim Conley and Leo Frank. Nevertheless, Leo Frank was lynched by a extrajudicial mob. So he was convicted and they were sentencing him to hang, but a mob stormed the jail with guns, captured Leo Frank, drove him out to Marietta, and hung him. So we're going to go take a look at Mary Phagan's grave, just discuss some of the details of the murder, and then we're just going to see what the landscape of this cemetery looks like. Just go around and look at some of the other graves within this cemetery, and really just discuss the case of Mary Phagan and what could have possibly happened. So follow me and we're gonna see what this is all about. And here it is, the grave of Mary Phagan, but I'm gonna take a second just pan around this area. This was formerly known as the Marietta Confederate Cemetery. Up ahead there are markers, and there are quite a bit of Confederate soldiers. You can't see them within this, but straight ahead they would be up there. There's a few monuments erected for them, erected really the early 1900s, just after the Civil War, or a few years after the Civil War, by the Daughters of the Confederacy. Not to stay on that topic too much, because most of us do know why a lot of these statues and monuments were erected for the Confederacy, but stay off that topic. It's a pretty inflammatory topic to talk about with people in the South. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at the grave of Mary Phagan. Now here's the marker, one of the two markers. This is discussing the song about little Mary Phagan. Now here is the actual grave of Mary Phagan. We'll step over the grave that's right next to her, not to step on it, and I'm not sure if you can read this too well. It's a little easier to read in person. So born June 1st, 1900, died April 26, 1913. In this day of fading ideals and disappearing landmarks, little Mary Phagan's heroism is an heirloom that which there is nothing more precious among the old red hills of Georgia. Sleep, little girl, sleep in your humble grave, but if the angels are good to you in the realms beyond the troubled sunset and the clouded stars, they will let you know that many an aching heart in Georgia beats for you, and many a tear from eyes unused to weep has paid you a tribute too sacred for words. And that is the grave of Mary Phagan. Now in front of her is the grave of George Fagan. I'm honestly not sure if George Fagan could be her dad, but I do know that Frances Coleman was the mother of Mary Phagan. So mother and daughter buried right next to each other. And here is another marker just beside her grave. You can see that there is a photo of her. Just discusses her basic biography. So she was the daughter of Fanny and John Fagan. Now it says down here, we saw in the previous monument, and I've read this a few times, but it says the 1986 pardon does not exonerate Leo Frank for the murder of little Mary Phagan. So what that's discussing is that though the pardon does not exonerate him from the murder, it does acknowledge the carelessness within the trial and presentation of evidence. Like I said, there's so much evidence that points to Leo Frank, but it also points to Jim Conley. So this was a lot of, I'd say, just caused a lot of inflammation within the community. Like I said, there was a lot of evidence presented that was very loosely based. Many people lying within court. So it's obvious that Leo Frank could have done it, but there's a lot of stuff that could have shown that Jim Conley did it. Now, if you look up other videos concerning Mary Phagan, you may find a lot of news sources, current news sources, interviewing a descendant of Mary Phagan. Her name is actually Mary Phagan King. Now, she's very adamant that Leo Frank committed this murder, which, like I said, the amount of evidence shows that he could have done it and possibly did do it. But be very mindful and be very careful of how she shows her certainness when discussing how she knows Leo Frank committed the murder. She actually claims that her great aunt or great great aunt Mary Phagan communicates to her when she goes to her grave. Now, this is a lot of paranormal stuff that she's talking about. So, like I said, it does make it seem a little crazy, I would say. So just be very careful when you listen to her interviews, because she was not alive during this time. The only credit that she has is she has artifacts of Mary Phagan, but like I said, she was not alive during this time, so she really doesn't know what happened. Only Jim Conley, Leo Frank know what happened that night, and we'll say Mary Phagan knew what happened that night, but Mary Phagan's ghost is not telling her great niece. But nonetheless, if you like this video and want to see other places that I've been to, click the link in the description and it'll take you to an interactive map. If there's any other places you want to see me document, see me video, leave a comment in the comment section and I'll try to get around to it as soon as possible. But for now,